Welcome back. This is our final week, and I know, I can't believe week 10. And man, it has been such an eye-opening journey. I have dug deeper than I think I've ever dug in just meaning and art together, the combination of both. I love this. I don't want to stop doing this. I think the end of this 10 weeks is just the beginning, right? It's definitely not the end for me by any means. It's just, it sort of opened something up in me. And this week, like many, like most of the weeks, if not all of the weeks, all three of these seem to just really go hand in hand. They marry very nicely together. I love all the words. And the meanings are just super rich. Will to succeed, or just success or succeeding. Trust and wisdom are what we're talking about today. Which one of those jump out to you, Minette?
Right now, trust really stood out to me as I was sharing with Andrea before we get on the call. We're in the process of getting our house ready to put on the market to sell. And we had all the inspectors here yesterday. And it's, there's wear and tear on our home, but nothing is terrible wrong. But the anticipation of all the things that have to happen. Like you can see, I'm in a different room. I'm in a little small bedroom. I'm getting kicked out of my big studio to have it converted back into a living room. And I have to trust the realtor that she knows what she's doing. I've known her for a long time. She's been a realtor a long time, and I have a lot of trust in her. I have to trust her process. I have to trust just the process overall. I have to trust that we're going to succeed in getting what we need and want out of this, right? I'm trusting in the wisdom of the guide that is showed up. And so we had a house full of inspectors yesterday, all picked by the realtor, and they were so lovely. Every single one of them was so lovely. And she brought two other realtors to confer and to help come up with the right price, right? And it just was like so comforting to be able to just put myself into their hands and trust the process and the collective wisdom. And that's not always an easy thing for an overachieving, smart woman who likes to do things herself, right? It requires, I got to dig deep to be in that space of trust, which I know is a very different perspective than you and I are going to look at when we play and are trusting the process. But so all three of them feel really important right now. I'm also, as Andrea knows, making big changes in my business model next year. Whew. So a lot of trust that that's going to succeed to the same level as I have been successful this year. So yeah, there's a lot going on. It feels like we're ending on the perfect values for me right now. How about you?
Interesting. As you're talking about trust, I've often thought about trust as something external. Like I trust somebody else, or I trust we're talking about trust the process, these external things. And yet trust is very much an internal thing as well.
Yeah.
I have really looked deeply at, do I trust myself? Do I trust that I'm going to make the right decision? Do I trust that I am tapping into the right wisdom? Do I trust that I am picking the right people to trust? But it's an internal thing as well. So it's interesting how our perspectives can change over time. And I think that reading the definition, the dependence or belief on, the dependence on or belief in an assured trait.
Yeah.
So maybe a character trait, the firm belief in the reliability, the truth, the ability or strength of someone or something, a firm belief in them. And yet, when that's done externally, people are human. That's something we also have to remind ourselves of, right? And then the belief that something or someone is good and honest and will not harm you, or that something is safe and reliable. Wow. That makes trusting really hard to me, because I don't know.
It does. And you and I have talked about this, and look what I got in the mail today. It's right before the call, and trust isn't in here. So I was curious to see.
Yeah.
And I think we could have trust, self-trust, right? as a way of looking at that. And thank you very much. I almost bought 2 decks for you and me online. So great minds think alike. And I'm like, oh, I'll come back around to it. I'm glad I waited. So, and if you're wondering what I'm talking about, sweet Andrea sent me a beautiful deck of the Live Your Values deck, which the art is by Lisa Congdon, who I have deep admiration for her art and her words and her activism and the things that she stands for. And Cheryl Moot had actually seen these and shared these in our Facebook group or in a message to me. So it was super, super fun.
So now we have matching decks.
We're matching. Because we weren't already. But so, but that concept of self-trust, I agree. And I find a different, like, this is what I think has been so valuable and interesting about the whole 10 weeks is thinking about my relationship with these values across time and how some rise to the top. I'm seeing how my attunement to these concepts shows up in right alignment when I need them, right? And yeah.
So I also think that the wisdom really to me is sort of married to trust, because I don't just trust willy-nilly. There has to be some wisdom behind it, right?
Yes. And I realized where I was going with my thought, and it relates back to, you made a comment. Sorry, I totally cut you off. Otherwise, I'm going to forget the thought. But you made a comment about how hard it is to trust others when there's that sense of, having to rely on them. And we've been in this conversation all year long, not just with this program, but with so many of the collaborations and partnerships that we've been in. And I think that core issue of trust has been a thread, whether we were conscious of it all year or not. And watching in our own relationships where trust has broken down and impacted relationships, and where trust and shared wisdom and shared values have stayed strong, and collaborations have been very fruitful. Sorry.
It's interesting. It's interesting that trust is a lot easier when you have more values in alignment than not.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
When integrity is high up on the list for both of us, it's a lot easier to trust.
Yes.
Or whatever our high value or our higher core values are, if those are in alignment, it's a lot easier to trust. So trust is a difficult one. Wisdom for me is the one that I chose to do my lesson on this week. And wisdom to me is not a fast thing. I mentioned that before in my lesson this last week, that I don't necessarily come around to, I forgot the one that I did the lesson on. That's, my mind is just
problem solving, the one
problem
solving
problems.
problems.
And
or practicality, the one that pissed you off.
Yeah, that one pissed me off. That's for sure. I'm coming around to practicality, but problem solving, like, I'm not a fast problem solver, but I mull it over. And that's the same thing with wisdom, that it takes time for me, and I mull it over. And for me, it's a spiritual connection. That's where the wisdom comes from. But I believe the wisdom is in me already. I have to do the work to tap into it. And that's where the writing,
which is trust.
But I have to do the work to tap into it. And that is where the writing component comes in. That is where, when I am doing my morning pages, like I was going to say religiously, but that's negative.
Not true lately.
But when I'm doing my morning pages habitually, consistently, when I'm coming to the page every day, I get to visually see that wisdom written out. It's in me already.
Yeah. It's
the connection that I have with God. It's the connection that I have with spirit, whatever you want to call it. I call it God. And it comes out, that wisdom comes out for whatever I need it for. It's already there. It's one of those things that's like the fabric of me. It's already there, but tapping into it is the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I found the wisdom card. That's what I
Yeah,
was
what does that
doing
one say?
over here, looking down. So it says to have deep insight, knowledge, and judgment,
Mhm.
which I think requires integrity, right? Definitely, it takes time. We don't become wise overnight. You know, we may be born with a lot of intuitive knowing, but that's not the same as knowledge or wisdom. And to me, wisdom and knowledge, it's interesting to look at those in concert, and she has them both in this deck. But what I'm appreciating about the deck is there's insights on the back and how to put these into action. And she talks about how, as you interact with others, approach them from a place of compassion and empathy. Putting yourself in other people's shoes is an excellent tool for developing wisdom.
Mm.
And that's a beautiful reframing of looking at how do we soak up wisdom by just being in the presence of others and seeing how they're being in the world, right? I don't know what I hit. There you are. I picked succeed for my lesson,
Mhm.
and it's a tricky one. I think I have a complicated relationship with success. So I had to untangle what it means to achieve success from the value of succeeding,
Mhm.
right? Like I found myself getting caught up in, and I've been having conversations in my head all week. I haven't done my writing yet. Like you said, that just helps a ton. And especially how it was written on the list as a will to succeed. And I will own that I am that high achieving. I do have a will to succeed, but success and what that means to me has changed a lot over the decades, right? Like what that looks like for me at 56 is very different than what it looked like at 25 or 35.
Yeah.
And so when I started thinking about it in the context of my creative practice, especially, and what it means to succeed for me is super simple. And when I let go of the complexity and the depth of what it could mean and looked at what does it mean to succeed? For me, it means that I make art every day. It means that I get better at the things that I'm passionate about. So whether that's a commitment to drawing botanicals or painting with watercolor, I've decided next year is going to be a commitment to drawing animals. This year I did a lot with practicing drawing faces, and I'm like, I just don't love drawing faces, right? Like, you know, but I didn't know that until I kind of did a
Yeah. I know
30-day
until
deep
you do
dive.
it, right?
You know, yes, but there's succeed comes back to me to the concept of mastery. Like I feel successful when I have mastery of a topic, but I love being on the journey to
Mm.
success.
Mm.
And one of the definitions of to succeed is to follow step after step after step, right? Like one thing succeeds another, and it's not necessarily a way that I commonly use the word succeed, right? I
Mhm.
wasn't
Yeah.
thinking about one thing succeeding the next. But in the creative process, especially the mixed media creative process that you and I love so much, success comes from just following the step by step process, trusting that the step by step is going to get us to this successful finished product in the sense of it's something that we love.
And it's something that you said too. I like the journey, right?
Yes.
And I may not, the will to succeed may not be one of my higher echelon values,
Mhm.
because you know what? Mastery is not that important to me.
Yeah.
A broad knowledge and being enjoying the process is much
Yeah.
more important to me.
Yeah.
You know, the dabbling in or the playful exploration of, but mastery is not my goal. I just
Yeah.
want to keep moving. I want to
Yeah.
be in the flow of it. I don't want to be bogged down or stuck or have this vision of, you know, oh, only if I achieve a, you know, X, Y, and Z will I have succeeded.
Mm.
And so I sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater with that one. I'm like, yeah, I get, that's fine. I don't need, that's fine. I don't need a will to succeed.
Yeah.
Not one of my upper ones, but I do know that taking baby steps will get me further down the path.
Yeah.
And that is that whole thought about one thing comes after another, as in a series. So it's a succession of steps, little tiny
Yes.
baby steps, micro movements. It's
Right.
progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
It's making this movement towards. So that will to succeed for me, it kind of ties into progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of ties into, in a strange way, I was thinking on the drive over here, I was just over at the studio and sort of zooming down the road to come back. And I was thinking, the will to succeed, the whole concept of having a will to do anything
Yeah.
is that I have hope in something.
Mm.
Having hope in something. And you define success, you can define your own success, like
100%.
making some progress.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be these higher, huge things. And so I think that's maybe where we get stuck, is what is
Yeah.
success?
The sort of outer trappings of
Mhm.
keeping up with the Joneses, or
Exactly.
painting like Picasso first step out of the gate. And I'm
For
listening to you.
for
And to
sure.
me, I've succeeded if I've gotten the things done on my to-do list on a daily basis, right? I've succeeded if I practice self-care every day.
And so what if
And
you don't? That's the thing, is like, do you beat
it's
yourself
not
up? Do you feel like a
no,
failure? What's the opposite of success? Failure?
no, for me, it's not. I'd be curious if we looked up, Googled the antonym, but to me, the opposite of succeeding, because it also like
I
connotes
gotta
a
know it
sense.
now. I
Well,
reach it for my
I'll look it
phone.
up. I'll look it up. I've got my Google up here. Succeed antonyms. But to me, it also is a sense of completion, right? And so there's a sense of being able to, if I've succeeded, I'm at a place of completion and I can move on to the next thing as well. Yeah, they have fail or flop, but I don't, or proceed instead of succeed, it's to proceed.
Oh, before.
Yeah, before.
Yeah. So I think that's where I get stuck, is like, if I'm not succeeding, then I'm failing. It's that
Yeah,
black and
which is a
white.
judgment thing,
It's
right?
a
Where
judgment thing. It's a black and white
I'm
thing.
more about, I need to remember to celebrate how far I've come,
Mhm.
right? And at some point, I also need to say that something's finished and move on.
Mhm.
Because for me, the bigger concern is when I get stuck in spinning mode or perfectionism,
Mhm.
and I'm not letting myself enjoy the win of completion and moving on,
Yeah. So I
right?
think I will lean into progress and let succeed be for somebody else.
Yeah. 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 And as you know, I love mastery and going deep into things, right? And so I think it's a great example. Like, I agree about the word succeed. It feels loaded and heavy to me.
Mhm.
And so I don't have any idea what art I'm going to create around that, and find a way to lighten it up, although it's probably going to be more related to the sort of step-by-step process
Mhm.
than to succeeding at something. But yeah, the weightiness of that one definitely feels challenging. But I'm going to stay in curiosity
Yeah.
about the other definitions. And to me, mastery feels joyful and in alignment with my high value of continuous improvement and always be learning. Like, that mastery feels like it's a constant journey. You're never there. Right. And that feels better, which is, this to me, the same as it's forward progress. But success is like you're
You
hitting
made it.
some, yeah, but made it where?
What's it?
Yeah. 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 I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not,
I don't
yeah.
know.
And it's certainly not the outer trappings of what it means to be a success. Like, I saw
Well, my
someone's
friend,
really
I think,
annoying post about flying first class. Yeah. And I'm like, who the fuck cares?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you.
I will say you and I and all of those of us who are in the creative stretch have succeeded. We
Yeah.
have made it through this 10 weeks. There's our gold star. We've done it. We've tapped into now 30 core values. That is a huge
It
success.
is.
We'll
And
see-
whether you've done 5 of them or 10 of them or one of them,
yeah.
you've been here in the energy for the whole 10 weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're so glad you were with us. So my heart is full. I'm going to miss you guys. In the interim, we will be back in March. We are launching another round of this. We hope you will join us then. We do have one more call coming up on Minette, do you have a date
Monday.
for you?
Yeah, it's December 6th. So, they're getting the video and us live all on the same day, most likely,
Awesome.
even though it's, I don't know whenever we're recording this, it's not December 6th.
Yeah. Dates or times are just relative.
There's something about like from Thanksgiving to Christmas where it's all just fluid.
It's all just fluid. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being with us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.